When I first started trading, if you were anything like me, I could not understand support and supply and demand and just how to identify that within the market. Like, once you see price touch a certain area, a certain amount of times that we can say this is support or this is resistance. But just trying to identify which is which the way that it was taught at first when I first started trading, it was just something that in real time I could never like truly count on, like have confidence in when I'm marking up my charts. To be honest, there's plenty of times where it looks like there's an area that could be supply, or there's an area that can be demand, or there's an area that could be support or resistance. So supply and demand and support or resistance, they're taught the same. Those are the same type of thing when we're those are the same type of concept when we're talking about the market, right? But what I'm going to show you guys today, it saves me time when I'm marking up my charts. It builds me the utmost confidence in certain areas, and it aligns with so many other institutional levels, psychological levels, and very important times of the market where when I show you this and how I mark up my supply and demand, support and resistance, better known as decision making levels, or DMLs is something you'll hear me say a lot. When I show you this, it's going to simplify how you mark up your charts, and you can literally go back test this, or you can back test when you're done and watch how it works on any pair, any financial instrument, cryptocurrency, stocks, bonds. I use this to mark up the DXY, the dollar index. I use this for everything when it comes to marking my chart and understanding. Because what are these levels for, right? These levels are trying to paint us a picture for where price could travel to, right? Or move away from, or areas we don't want to, right? So that's all we're trying to find a point from price to travel from A to B, and then from B to C, and then from C back down to B, right? That's what these levels are for. And when I show you this, I promise it's going to simplify it for you. So let's just get into it. All right, so there's two characteristics that decision making levels have that I want us to remember, right? Decision making levels, right? Two characteristics, right? Number one, number one is they act as magnets, right? What's a magnet? Come on, we know what a magnet is, right? They act as magnets, right? And so what does it draws things closer to it, right? It draws things closer to it. So the remember this about magnets in decision making levels, right? The further away we are, the stronger the what? The stronger the magnet. So it doesn't matter where you could be marking this up on a daily chart, a weekly chart, wherever that magnet is, the farther away it is from price, from current price, the stronger that level becomes. Okay? And so that's number one. All right, so then we have force fields, right? What does a force field do? A force field, what does it what does a force field do? It prevents things from moving through it, right? It prevents things from moving through it. So the closer price gets to it, the harder it is for it to break through. Okay? The closer price gets to it, the harder it is for it to break through that level, right? So it doesn't matter which way we are going within the market, right? The closer price gets to that level, the harder it is for it to break through, right? So we have two things, right? The further it is away from that level, the more attracted it is to that level, right? With this one here, the further it is away from that level, right? The more attracted it is to that level. The more attracted we get to that level, the closer we get, the harder it is for it to break through that level, right? And it will reject that level, right? Okay. So those are the two characteristics as far as magnets and force fields. I want you to remember that. I want you to remember that. All right? And so we can literally this works on any time frame. It does not matter what time frame that you are on. you're going to see what I'm about to show you, and you're going to see it work at a high rate, right? And I didn't have an example that I was gonna go through prior to this. I'm on USDJPY right now. I'll go through 5 different ones because I can mark up key areas. I'm gonna pick one time frame. I can mark up key areas in a very small time. And right, it's not about necessarily like doing it quick, but the thing is, it's become so consistent and it's not hard to find that it just allows me to get it done. Right. And so the other thing that I really like about this is I don't mark up my charts every single day or every single morning because these levels are consistent with, like I mentioned, institutional levels, levels that institutions are playing at. How do I know that? Because of the volume at certain levels. How else do I know that? Because of something called psychological levels. There's so many things that I can go into in terms of numbers and where big money plays, right? And how it communicates with those levels, with EMAs and with other price averages, right? Man, I can go on with how many things I've seen. All right, I'm just gonna get into it. Right, I'm just gonna get into it. All right, so this is from July of this year, or actually last year, 2024, right? I'm on the daily chart. I'm on the daily chart right now, right? And so what we're looking for a 3 candle structure, right? We're looking for a 3 candle structure. What is that gonna look like? Let's get rid of that. What is that gonna look like? Because I wanna show it here before I go show it there, right? We're looking for a 3 candle structure. And actually, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. Watch this. All right, we're looking for a 3 candle structure. All right, I'm going to show you 2 types of decision making levels. I'm going to show you one created by buyers, and I'm going to show you one created by sellers. All right. All right. So the buyer DMLs, right? We're gonna make these kind of candles buyers, right? So that means price opened down here, right? Price opened down here, and buyers took it up higher, right? And then at the top, close. Okay, that's a. Sometimes you see something like this. Sellers push price all the way down. It opened here, so that's where the open was. That's where the battle began. Buyers started there. Sellers were able to push it all the way down here, but essentially it still closed up here. Okay. All right. And then the other candles for sellers are going to look like this. Okay. When I show you this example right now, this is what I want. Right. It look different on my chart, on my specific chart when I show you on my trading view. But remember this, right? So this is just the opposite. That means price open here still. We're saying that price open here and it closed down here. Okay? Buyers were able to push price all the way up to this point, but price still fell back down because of sellers and closed down here. Okay, so when we're talking about a buyer decision making level, buyers created it. We're looking for a 3 candle. Make that a little bit smaller. We're looking for a 3 candle structure. The first candle of that structure is the smallest candle. It's the candle of the bunch. And look, sometimes I don't draw straight boxes. But that's just gonna have to be okay because we're focused on what these boxes mean. All right, what these candles mean. All right, and so candle, it's gonna be the second biggest, right? But it's gonna be the different color. It's gonna be a different color candle. That means it's gonna be, in this case, that's the bearish candle, right? So actually, let me do this because that's not what it would look like. That can't be a bearish candle, right? Because this is where our close is. That means this is what we're looking for, right? That's what we're looking for. Okay? And so buyer candle, seller candle, because price opened down here, closed up here, price opened at the close, push price down, right? And then our final candle is going to be the biggest one of them all. Oh. All right, and then our final candle is going to be the biggest one of them all, right? But it's going to be the same color as the first candle. So it's going to be a buyer candle. Okay, so this is what we're looking for on the chart, right? And how I go about it, since this is a buy, I want this from the bottom, right? And so I will, when I show you how I mark it up, essentially want to find these, and you will at the lowest point, right? I want to find this at the lowest point of price, right? So if I have something like this, I want to see one of these down here, and I want to see it over here, and I want to see it over here, because I want to see it at those areas where buyers take over. Okay? And so just on the other side of that, let me leave that. Just on the other side of that, right? A seller decision-making level, right? Seller decision-making level, right? And the same is true. If we're trending down, I want to see one of these at this level, but ultimately I just want to see it where it started the party. Okay? But what you're going to see is you're going to see it everywhere. So like you'll see the buyer one right here because we bought up. And then you'll see the seller one up here. And then you'll see the buyer one because that's where we bought up, right? And will you see them cross each other sometimes? Yes. But that is what simplifies this, because not all the time it's going to just continuously respect that level. There's a time where it's going to right here in this case where we have one, it's below that level, right? And then it's going to come back to that level, retest, and boom, now we're in a downtrend, right? But the point is, that is why I look at it and I refer to it as what I said in decision making levels, because price does two things, actually three things at these levels. Next thing I want you to remember by the end of this video, price does three things at these levels. So it has two characteristics and it does three things at this level, okay? Number one that it does at this level, it buys off of this level. I just showed you that, right? It buys off of the level. Number two that it does, it sells off of the level, right? And number three that it does is it moves sideways or consolidates or ranges, whatever terminology you want to use, or accumulates. Whatever terminology you want to use, I like accumulates because that has a whole nother meaning behind it. And to understand what it means when price is moving sideways builds value when we're talking about just being patient, right? And just being patient. Man, I get hyped up about this stuff just because this did it for me. Just for marking up my charts. Like I could solely trade off of just my levels, right? But I like to have I like to I love trading because I'm in complete control of my risk. So whatever I can do to increase my probabilities and what I see happening over a certain amount of probabilities, to me that also helps me decrease my risk exposure, right? So when we're talking about the chart now, let's bring that, what I just showed you, over to the chart now. All right, so remember, we're looking at USD JPY right now. We're currently looking on the daily time frame. I'm going to show you two things, right? Right here on this, right? I'm going to show you two different things just on with what I have to work with this price action right here. Another pair and another time frame, right? And so right now we can all agree we're in a downtrend, right? This is the daily chart. We can all agree we're in a downtrend. This is at the beginning of the year and it's currently April, almost April, right? We're in a downtrend, right? And so at this level, we can also all agree that this looks like an area where there's some resistance or whatever the other terminology you want to use, right? But at the end of the day, at this area, the decision was made to sell. That was the final decision. Now, as we move to this area, the decision was made to do what? The decision was made to move sideways, right? Okay, so remember our characteristics we talked about, right? What did we say? Let's just put it up here. We're gonna put the things that we talked about earlier up here just so we have it. They buy, they sell, they move sideways, right? And then we're gonna put our two emojis up here because, like I said, I like making this. I like something that's really practical, that we can use. So this is the force field. I can't find my shield. This is the force field, and this is the magnet, right? So those are the two emojis we want to remember, right? And so as we were down here on price, when we were down here, right, there was something at this area that was a magnet, right? And then that's when we start to move to the left and look right, right? Because at this level, I can see a similar structure, right? Even though if you get in here really tight on this specific one, you see how this is slightly it closed above. This was a gap because that like price can't open here, close here, and then open at a completely different price, right? Normally it just goes back and forth. So I don't not going to use that level for the example I want to show you because there's times where it will look like the area is our three candle structure, but if you zoom in, it's not what we're looking for. It's still, in my opinion, a strong type of um, confluence for from candles based on what the individual candles are telling us, right? Once we understand that this candle is showing somewhat of an indecision at this level, right? Just because we can see that sellers push price all the way down, but at the end of the day, buyers were able to get us to just stay within this range, right? So it was indecisive, and then we see the next candle some of that strength, right? Because they ended up winning this candle. But ultimately, we see that sellers stepped in, not what we're looking for, right? So, but if we continue more left, we see this, right? We see this. We see candle structure, right? First candle, like the board, is okay. Middle candle is a seller candle or a bearish candle, and it's different than both of them. And then we have the biggest candle of them all, right? And then from this level, even though we moved a little bit downwards, I understand that, right? This is the area where buyers decided to make its move, okay? So the reason why it's important, right? And this is why time frames are also important because I could probably find an actually watch this. So that's the daily, right? We're gonna look at this area right here on a different time frame, and I promise you, we're going to see our three candle structure. Let's go down to the 8 hour. And I have not done this before. All right, I have not done this before. 8 hour, okay, nothing there. Let's go to the 4 hour. All right, what do we see? What do we see? Come on, what do we see? What do we see at this level? Right? Three candle structure. Yes, I understand we broke this level, right? Yes, I understand that buyers started this and sellers ended up taking it over. I understand that. That is the point of these levels and not really caring. Yes, it's important to identify that buyers generated something or sellers generated something. Why? Why, Marcus? Why is that important? It's important because if a buyer generates a decision making level and which is historically based on a number of hours that I've spent on these charts and actually not only back testing it but seeing it happen in real time using tons of historical price data. We've seen historically that when that three candle structure comes in, buyers tend to respect it over a long period of time, right? And just vice versa, when we see decision making levels come in, price over a long period of time has historically shown that it's going to respect those if sellers generated it. So based on the strength of their own abilities, right? Buyer decision making levels and seller decision making levels. If sellers are able to come in here and hold price to the point where it doesn't continue higher but breaks its decision making level, that's a strong area. That's strong sellers price action, right? And how do we also know it's strong sellers price action? Because we had similar engagement at a previous level. And look at that. Oh my gosh, look at that. So this is where I marked my daily one, right? Just look at this. Look at how this adds up. This is where I marked the daily one that I showed you. Or was it the 8 hour? Where my daily one go? No, not sure. Oh, this. So this is where I marked the day. Oh no, right here, right here, right here. There it is. There it is. See, I knew I was tripping. I was looking right at it. This is where I marked our daily, right? Where I said I know it broke down below, and then this is ultimately the move that came up. But then we go to another time frame and we see the same type of communication at that level where we're getting this strong action, right? And breaking that level, right? You see what I'm saying? See how this starts to try to like how it all adds up, right? But the point I am making about these levels is the only thing that we should be focused on about these levels is how price reacts to them, right? And when we're able to identify who has the strength at that level, right? Then we can use both when they're bullish decision making levels and seller decision making levels. Okay? And so in this case, right, we had that happen there, right? And then so we fast forward to now, right? This was the beginning of this year, like I said, but we fast forward to now, right? This is real time prices going on right now, right? And this is what's today, March 23rd, right? So this area of accumulation happened at this area of decision making, right? You see what I'm saying? So it made the decision to move sideways at an area that has shown that it is an area where a decision is going to be made. And one thing we know about price action is it's not going to accumulate forever, right? It's not going to accumulate forever. So it comes to a point where it's eventually going to buy or it's eventually going to sell, right? And that's why we're in this downtrend. But let's look closer. How can we confirm we are potentially in a downtrend? A strong one, especially with all the stuff going on, right? With the fundamental aspect and real movement behind the market. How can we confirm this isn't just a fake out and that it's not going to come right to this level, right? If you see what I see, but an area where we see previous rejection, how do we know it's not going to stop there and turn back around, right? We know that because we had our very own decision making level come in the same at the
literally at this same area that I marked up earlier, right? That was this one where it wasn't actually a decision making level, remember? Because if you zoom in, there was a slight price discrepancy, but at that same level, we have our three candle structure we're looking for. Literally. You see that? So we get that decision to be made right there, right? And and sellers take over, right? But then we get to this area, and what happens? Because what is this area? Our three candle structure. One, two, three. Our three candle structure. And what happens when we get to this area? Because remember, this is on the daily. So starting on Monday, we were moving sideways the entire week at that level. Until what? Sellers decided to take over, right? And so let's think about let's think about before price got before price even did any of that, right? Before price even did any of that, what did we have? Like what evidence based on where price? Oh my gosh, I just saw something else too. Look at this. What evidence did we have of where price could potentially travel at this point in the market? Let's look at it. Well, we had our previous decision making level right here. So let's label that daily DML. That's what I call them. That's what I label them. Daily DML, right? That's where we had price. That's where we had our initial decision making level. What's a way that we can confirm based on what we're looking at right now that this is a strong area? Because from this bottom point here, we moved all the way up and for some reason stopped right at that level and turned around. That is literally textbook. And how I refer to this is the communication that price is giving us. Like it's like sign language, I like to call it, right? It's like sign, and we can even go backwards some more because just listen, watch this video till the end because if this doesn't help you, please let me know in the comments how and why it did not. And it's probably something I can clarify in my next video because like this stuff is coming up as I'm showing you guys this. And the only reason why I'm going to keep as I notice something, I have to show you because it's so impactful, right? And so watch this. Even if we go all the way back to right here, where price is at right now, and we look at the daily level, right? This one right here, it's currently acting as a magnet. This level is currently acting as a magnet. Okay. And in another video, I'll get into imbalance in price action, inefficient price, which the technical term that it took a while for me to understand, fair value gaps. But it's just simply, we'll get into another video. I can get into how that applies here as well and how that makes this level even stronger. But like I said, if I go down every rabbit hole, I don't know if we're gonna come out. I don't know if we're gonna come out. And so at this level, right? Magnet. This area is a strong magnet right now. And we literally see that happen before our eyes, right? And as we get to this level, what does it turn into? Now this area is a force field, right? Now this area is a force field because it's going to do everything it can to prevent price from moving through it. This is why I always say I don't trade through levels. I trade to levels. I don't trade through them. Even if we're in a great and am I a culprit of trying to? Absolutely. And I love when I do and I learn my lesson because it just validates Marcus. For one, follow your system. For two, these levels don't play. These levels don't play. Right? And so this area is now a force field. But let's look closer because now we're thinking about like when I'm thinking about this, like why does it matter? Because I want to be able to I want to trade level to level. Because like I said, this is on the daily. So if I start on the daily and I'm able to find strong, I like to sandwich price, right? So if I start and we're about to sandwich price right now after I go over this based on where we're currently at. After I sandwich price, if we're at the top of that sandwich, I'm trading to the bottom. If we're at the bottom, I'm trading to the top, and vice versa. I'm not trying to trade through it. When it does break, I'm gonna take that after it breaks and confirms with a candle close below that level, depending on the strength, the potential retest or correction at that level, right? And we can just keep going, but right. So let's look closer. I'm gonna sandwich price right here because what do we have right here? Three candle structure, three candle structure. So I'm gonna of this level, right? Just like over here, I took the top because that's a buyer, so I like to do that. If it was the seller, I want to take the bottom of it, right? I want to take the bottom of it. If it's a buyer, I want to take the top of it, right? When we're below, I want the bottom no matter what. So right. So remember that when we're above price, I want the top. When we're below price, I want the bottom, right? Because I want a sandwich price. That's the cleanest way to do it, right? And so right now we have price sandwich between two decision making levels, daily decision making levels, strong areas, right? The higher the time frame, the stronger the area. So if you started looking for this stuff on the weekly, that's going to be a strong area. But one thing you have to remember about the higher the time frame is the more price movement there actually is, right? The more actual movement there is, right? So even though this is somewhat of a tight range, that's 80 pips, right? Or 800 pips. No, 80 pips. I'm tripping. Yeah, that's 80 pips in that area, right? And so we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware of that. And no, I'm tripping, bro. That's 800. So when we're looking at this range down here to this range, that's 700 pips. Right? That's a lot of movement, right? So if I'm trading this level to this level, right? And so um right? So as we get to this level, force field. Other side of this, the other side at this decision making level is what? A magnet, right? And then what do we see happen? Price move right down to that. So now what? Now this is a force field and this is a magnet. They just flip flop. They just flip flop, right? They just flip flop. What do we notice? What do we notice that it formed on the way down? That gives us another that makes this area even more of a magnet. Decision making level. And it's just the point is the constant communication of this three candle structure at the same levels, right? Like and then we can get into like institutional numbers and what that means in another video, but you'll start to see just like this one is very close to 157. Very close to it. 20 pips off actually, right? That's just a flat, clean number, institutional number, right? And you see price rejected this decision-making level before it even got to that institutional level, right? That psychological level, right? And so what? We have this now acting as a force field, this acting as a magnet. What do we see? What do we see happen? Price move right to that area. And it has now broken through that area, right? And so now what is it? This area, just because it's broken, right? It's still gonna act as a force field, right? Until it moves away from it significantly. Because then what does it act as? Then it acts as a magnet. They like you know what I'm saying? So just because we closed, it doesn't make this area now a magnet. Because we aren't significantly far away from that area for price to attract back towards it. The thing that it also likes to do, which it just like I said, moves sideways, that's acting more as a force field, right? Because it's having a hard time breaching it than it is acting as a magnet. You know what I'm saying? So like if it starts doing something like this, right? Which let's see what it does. So it ends up just respecting it. It ends up respecting it. And what does it leave? behind. Bow. Decision-making level. So now this area is what? It's a force field. And this area is a magnet. And the closer we get to it, the closer we get to it, this area, and it just keeps shifting, right? But in a really just seamless manner, in a really simple manner, right? And now we see in real time, this is price in real time. We got down to this level and this area turned into a force field. And now we have an area that's accumulated orders, a pool of money sitting here, and we have an area that's a decision-making level where price likes to be attracted towards, right? So what do you think I am potentially looking at this week, right? I'm looking like I'm looking for price to move back to this level. If not, I'm looking for it to firmly break this level, right? So this is exactly what it is, right? I'm looking for price to move towards this level. I'm not going to trade through it. I'm playing it, trading towards it based on my lower time frame confirmations, right? And other confluences, other fundamental factors that I like to look at to continuously just mitigate my risk, right? And minimize my risk. But then, of course, it doesn't always work out the way you may think. So, based on these levels, I am able to have a completely even bias, right? That's a contradiction, right? An even bias, right? What does that even mean? That means that I don't have to weigh my emotions or perspective or thoughts or any of that on the market doing any one thing. I'm able to weigh it evenly based off of that three candle structure, just based off of that three candle structure. Like, because if the market ends up coming down here, right, it's going to be because of this. I had this, like, this level. It's going to be the decision that happened at this level. As we see, it's currently in a range, right? It's moving sideways. Yes, I know it had a, like, this is not a downtrend. From this candle to this candle was not a downtrend. Yes, I understand this was maybe a week of trading, but look, come on, this was the downtrend if we're talking on a daily. And the market is super fractal. So yes, on a smaller time frame, this is absolutely a downtrend, right? 1 minute, 1 hour, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is that level, you know what I'm saying? You go down to the 5 minute, right? We're gonna see a decent, we're gonna see a decent downtrend from that area, right? So this is the level here, downtrend, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I like to start on those higher time frames. Get out of that. I start on those higher time frames. I sandwich price, and I'm gonna show you actually. Watch. Let's just fit. So that's the end of this example. As far as the daily, we saw it. We saw the force field like nature of price of these decision making levels. We saw the magnetic type of nature, right? We saw how price accumulates at decision making levels and then uses those levels. We saw it have a strong bullish trend, correct and respect the level, and then continue upwards, right? You know what I'm saying? We saw it come down. Oh, that's the other thing. We saw it come down to this level, right? Touch, touch. Yes, it broke, but now it's ranging, right? But now it's ranging. And then what do we have? Decision making level, very close to one. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Nope. Right? So we went through a lot just now. You know what I'm saying? You might have to come back to this one again. I was trying to make it quick, and initially, but I just can't leave anything out. Like, and I left some stuff out as I mentioned throughout this video, just for the sake of it, right? Because there's something else I'm gonna show you right now of how I personally use this and how I'm going to use it right now. Like, this is my back testing, just my example chart. But if I show you my other chart, I have levels marked that I haven't touched, right? Like, this is how I trade. right? This is how I trade. You know what I'm saying? And so watch this, right? So we went through all that. Now, since we have price sandwich currently. Why? Because this is live price, this is a decision making level, this is a decision making level. It's between two levels right now, right? And so what I would do, because I know how much price action is within this area, I'm going to a different time frame because I want to then again sandwich price. So I go down to the 8 hour because I want the highest time frame smaller than the daily. Why? Because those are the areas that have the most strength. So I also look at these areas on 5 minutes, but a 5 minute decision making level does not give me more confidence in that level holding its position more than a 15-minute decision making level. And a 15-minute decision making level doesn't give me more confidence than a 1 hour decision making level, and so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? And so in this specific example, we're looking at our 8 hour. And so I see this right here. And so I would do exactly this. I would mark up an 8 hour decision making level. Why? Because I don't want to get caught up. Let's see, I take a buy. And that would be fine for me to take that buy, right? I don't like to try to, like, when we're too close to a level, like, I wouldn't try to take that. You know what I'm saying? And I would try to take it if I can keep my risk at a 1.5 to 1, my reward to risk ratio. That's the only way that I would take that trade based on how I like to find my stop losses. And that's a whole nother video we'll be able to get into. But and like the actual way that I trade and I look for my entries. Maybe I'll do like a back testing session or something like that. But that's the only scenario where I would, because we're just too close. However, with where price is right now, trading to that level is 111 pips, 117 pips. That's fine. I'm okay with it, right? And so what I would do then again is go down. Now, since I found a closer area to sandwich price, I will go down to the 15-minute in a more execution like time frame, right? And I would then do what? I would look for decision making levels, and I literally see three right now. Like, I see three at this level that I'm about to mark that is literally what I need to be able to have, like, to be able. And the thing is, like I said, I just want to be able to minimize my risk, right? And so I see things like I'm showing you now happen over and over and over and over again, right? And I take it, I live with the probabilities, I move on to the next, right? That's how I approach this, right? And so I have a decision making level right here. I have a decision making level right here, and I have one that looks like it's about to form at current price right now. Why is that so beautiful? Because they're all at the same level. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's at the same level, right? It's at the same level. And so this is how I would, like, if I wanted to just trade this, I would be totally okay taking this entry and just go for my 1.5 to 1. I'd be fine with that, right? But I have other confirmations and confluences that I look for, but I would be totally okay taking that trade and living with the result, right? Because it's respected this level so much. It's communicated to me three different times that it is a decision making level, given the fact that this does close over the next 4 minutes above, right? And it generates that decision making. Like, it's this is textbook right here, right? But that's how I would play that, right? And then um, even to have more information to mitigate my risk, since this is over 100 and, like I said, it's 20 pips away. This is where my 1.5 to 1 starts. I would just go left and see, okay, let's make sure on my 15-minute, there's not a decision making level somewhere over here that might be holding us, that could hold us up. Because remember, the market is fractal, so this stuff happens on every single time frame, but the smaller the time frame, the weaker the area, right? So this area, this 15-minute decision making level right here is a force field just like the 8 hour. It's just a little bit weaker. Like, the 8 hour was the big dude. This is like this. I would say it's probably like right there, right? So this area is still an area that has to show some resistance. All right, so because I have this area right here, I wouldn't like this trade. I wouldn't take this trade until we broke this level, right? And if I was just trading off of my decision making levels, I would like this trade more, right? Anywhere over here, which ideally once it closes above, right? And I don't mean like a close here. I mean at, you know, give me a strong candle, right? I want to be true is I want to keep my risk below 50 pips. I don't like when my risk is more than 50 pips when it's not just like my actual confirmations. If I'm just trading my decision making levels, or I'm taking a trade that is not my edge that I have back tested over the thousands of times, and I'm just trading off of looking at price action, then I like to keep my risk below 50 pips, right? And so no matter where it closes, if I as my level, right, I wouldn't be able to enter at least, you know what I'm saying? You guys follow me with that. So that's exactly what I would be looking at right now on USD JPY, right? And I just showed you, the entire breakdown from how I started, why I use it, right? We talked about the three different things that these decision making levels that price does at these decision making levels: buy, selling, or moving sideways. We talked about the two different characteristics that these levels possess, right? When we're talking about magnets and force fields, right? When we the further away price is, the more it acts as a magnet, right? The closer price is, the more it acts as a force field. So in this example, again, right, this would be area would act as a magnet. The closer we get to it, right, it then starts to change its habits, right, and now it starts to become more of a force field, and then so on and so forth. Um, any time frame you can look at that. I know I said I would do a few different pairs, and financial instruments, but like I want to show you how good this stuff is on even freaking marking up bonds. I use it on the VIX, right? The volatility reader, just to tell me the same story, right? I like to build up my own story, but this video is probably is much longer than I intended it to be at the beginning. But I'm not mad at it at all. I'm not. I'm glad. I'm glad I brought out the whiteboard for us to see it visually as well before we looked at the chart. Um, so yeah, I'm like I said, there's a few things that I talked about in this video that I'm gonna get into in other videos. I can even do a part two, part three, part 10 on just decision making levels. Honestly, just changed how I mark up my charts and how I see and just understanding the potential direction price could travel, and then having certain sign language and certain signals at that level of how price is acting at that level, right? And there's just so much that I can talk about it, so much more. So if this helped you at all understand um, something that was taught to me as support and resistance and supply and demand, right? But those terms just never drove home the concept for me. But I started looking at it as an area where decisions happen, and that seriously simplified the way I look at those areas. It changed how long I'm spending marking up my charts. It also changed the need for me to mark up my charts every day. So ideally, the longer an area is respected, the stronger that area is. That's why I like to leave levels over extended periods of time. But we went over a ton in this video. So any questions, comments at all, just drop them in the comments. I'll see them. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. EHM Trades. I'm out.